So the mother, in breaking up with their husband, has forced the child to break up with their father.
You need to nip that in the bud now, because your kid is going to become exactly like you in about 10 years' time if you don't sort it out.
This is it. And it's no one else's job to fix you.
Some of us are behaving like the single mothers that our mothers were towards our partners, because that's all we've seen. We haven't seen functional relationships. We haven't seen the dynamic of interdependency between our parents.
You haven't even seen romance. You've literally just seen parenting.
And this is also why we are accepting the bare minimum when it comes to our partners as well.
Hello and welcome to the To My Sisters podcast. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Renee, and we are your online big sisters and hosts of the To My Sisters podcast.
We are all about promoting the wellness, growth and development of a community of sisters across the world.
And in today's conversation, we're going to be talking about your daddy issues. Ooh. That's right, we're touching... Don't kill me already. That's right, we're touching on a sore subject for a lot of the sisters: parental relationships and how these can often positively and negatively affect and impact your attachment styles, your relationships, and your identity going forward. I'm really excited about this episode.
I am.
Really
This episode was birthed off the back of Your Average at Best. If you haven't watched that episode, go and watch it.
That was a firecracker, wasn't it?
It was a firecracker. And actually, loads of you have joined the To My Sisters community and the sisterhood based off the back of that video. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people requested, after you posted an amazing quote about when did daddy issues become basically weaponized against women, when it was the fathers that left. So a lot of people are like, we need an episode on daddy issues, and here we are delivering.
Absolutely delivering.
At your service.
Execution. We love to see it.
Yeah.
But before we get into the meat and bones of the conversation, there is always a ding, ding, ding.
Dilemma.
I know, that's right.
Someone is confused and
somebody is afraid.
That's no, I'm not going to lie. Yesterday I was thinking about this. I was like, you know what? We need to actually put on a Margle merch or something.
Yeah.
A third and I oopeth.
And I
oopeth.
There's a lot that we say that we actually don't realise.
Iconic.
Oh, the one that has been gingering a couple of people recently. Which one? This is it.
This is it.
This is it.
Hashtag this is it.
There was someone that commented that was mad. That was like, the lady on the left or right, it was me. It's like, she says, this is it, far too much. And I was like, do you know what?
It's a staple.
This is it.
This is it.
You know why I say it? Because this is what it. It is it that it is.
Facts. But let us know more about the, let us know if you have any other of our favourite sayings.
Yeah.
Any other sayings that are your favourite. Yeah. English is not Englishing for me this week.
Absolutely.
It's not. I was talking to someone yesterday, I just said, just interpret what I'm trying to say. Get the essence of it. I can't speak. Tiredness.
Oh.
How was your week?
My week was all right.
Yeah, I feel like we don't have general chit chat on the podcast anymore. These times we're just coming to
straight in with the dilemmas and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, dear sis,
I know the sisters are here. Some of the sisters will be like, get straight into the conversation. But you know what?
I'll put timestamps this time.
All right, handy. How was my week? It was all right. It was a solid week. It was busy.
Yeah. And you're not feeling too good.
Yeah. Don't worry, it's not coronavirus. It's not the
virus.
It's more of a tonsillitis. You know what I'm saying? So if my voice is rubbish by the end of this podcast episode, then I'm sorry. I can't.
You tried.
But one thing that I think I learned this week actually was learning to actually be really kind to myself. Like towards the latter half of the week when I started to feel, under the weather. It's so easy for you to be thinking in your head, oh, I still need to go hard. I still need to do my normal routine, go to the gym. But I actually had to cancel a couple of meetings.
Right.
I didn't go to the gym. And I had some bubble tea and I relaxed.
Good.
And it felt good.
As
and I was
deserve.
just like, there was a voice in my head that was like, you shouldn't be doing this. You're wasting your time and all of that kind of jazz. But then I kind of just said to myself, I actually need to focus on healing right now. Like healing my body. And I shouldn't feel bad about how many of us feel bad about recovering? And I was just like, do you know what? I'm going to enjoy, whilst I'm, under the weather. Who even came up with the saying under the weather? That's really interesting.
I mean, the weather today is trash. So I think
we're definitely
inspired.
under it too. So yeah, I think a big thing that I learned, especially towards the second half of the week as things slowed down, is allowing myself to recover, giving myself grace to recover, being kind to myself.
Grace to recover.
It was really, really nice. And just like being active about saying to myself, do you know what? You need to rest and that's okay. And, you know, all of your fitness goals, your productivity goals, that can wait for like a couple of days. You won't die. So yeah, that was my week.
Yeah,
but what about you?
You're gonna get better soon anyway. You gonna bounce back.
Oh, I have to be. Let me tell you guys something. This body, my immune system has to be Titanic.
100%.
Titanic has to.
An immovable force.
Immovable.
100. My week was great, actually.
Nice.
Like, it was a great week. I really honed in on a routine this week and actually like creating habits and sticking to them. Focusing on, like you said, like fitness goals, and also spending time with God. I think one thing that has really been a challenge for me, and this is just full honesty because, you know, that's what we do here.
Transparency.
I think the last year and a half has been the most challenging period for me faith-wise that I've ever experienced since I became a Christian. And this was the week that I finally decided, like, I don't like this. I don't like, not like backsliding. Please don't be alarmed. I wasn't out here doing crazy things. I wasn't an atheist either, but it was more so, I'm struggling. Like, I'm actually struggling with my faith. And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't talk about. And it was a really difficult season because all Christian of me. It was a really difficult time because my faith is such a huge part of me and it's a huge part of us. And so to really not be in a good place faith-wise was really challenging for a while because it kind of was a bit of like an identity crisis. Like,
I can imagine.
What's going on? But yeah, I decided to really deal with those issues head on this week. And I just feel like I've just climbed a hill, a really high hill. And I finally made it to the top and now I'm going back to normal dry land and I'm finding happiness there. So this week was actually really great. I feel like I made some breakthroughs. But yeah, that was this week. And somebody commented that the last time we did like, oh, how's your year going? I think our Q1 updates. Yeah. Someone commented, it was like, we don't care how your Q1 went. Well, we care. How about that?
Stop it.
Well, we care.
Stop it.
Okay.
Anyway. Like, just give us the goods. Yeah. Have you checked in on us recently?
How am I doing?
Have you said, big sisters, how are you? You know.
Because we be going through it.
We be going through it, yeah.
We be going through it. But really I mean, you know, but we're here to share those things anyway. Exactly. We're happy to share. We're not oversharing. Our life is not a product, but we are happy to share and use our lives for inspiration. But without further ado, someone else is in need of help. So you know how we are, but someone else is not okay. So let's get to this dilemma.
It's okay not to be okay.
You always sing these songs.
Sometimes it hurts to follow your heart.
Are you expecting me to jump in? Or?
Jessie J.
Oh no! Okay, wait, go on. And I think I know this.
Seeing is believing.
It's okay not to be.
There we go! Yeah. Ding, ding, ding! Oh, don't worry, guys. As we continue with this journey, Courtney will become more acquainted with these songs. I'm working on it.
Shout out to Jessie J. She knew how to make a sad song and she knew how to shout too.
Her vocals?
Yeah, apparently she's damaged her vocal range.
Yeah, because she was really doing up. Some of the places that she was reaching, I believe only Mariah Carey has been to those places and returned.
Listen, and even now, Mariah says, "Y'all gonna have to hit the note for me because
she said I've been singing with the Dolphins."
100%.
But anyways, let's get to the dilemma. All right, sisters in need. Hey sisters.
Hello.
I wanted to start by saying how much you girls have impacted me with your videos and the nuggets of wisdom and realness that are in every one of your episodes. You guys are the big sisters I never had. I'm the oldest of 4 from a Nigerian household.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Anyways, here is my dilemma. There was a boy from my church that I really liked, but I was constantly initiating our conversations, phone calls, and even our first date.
Okay.
I planned and organized everything, but it really felt like friends hanging out. When I confronted him about his lack of initiative, he said that he had already been doing enough.
Huh?
What makes things worse is that he's doing everything I'd like him to do for me with someone else. I realized that he wasn't as into me as he was into her. And what makes this even more difficult is that I constantly have to see them in church. Any advice?
You need to move on. You need to move on. And the best way to move on is to just decide to be okay.
It's okay not to
It's not okay in this situation. Because I think sometimes unless you move church, stop it. Unless you decide. I feel like I'm always the one telling you, I don't abuse Renee. Please, I beg of you. I don't.
Trust me, I am definitely the annoying one. In fact, I'm even the sharper one. Anyways.
But anyways, I think unless you choose to move church, you're going to see them.
Yeah.
It's very clear this man doesn't like you. And I think sometimes with crushes and stuff like that, some people date you to see if they like you, or simply because the opportunity has been presented to them to get to know you. So even with you initiating everything, it's evident in his actions. He's not trying to be proactive with you. That's fine. He's not as into you as you are into him. He's into someone else, and you have to let that flourish. There's something you always highlight, and I think I've also had to learn through life, which is it's not the end. Like, it's just because you like somebody who doesn't like you.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye. Next. Literally, I'm gonna focus on me, and then when the next person comes along, I'll try again. And at least you learn now a big sign that someone doesn't like you is that they're not proactive with you, and maybe you then channel that into your next experience. But it's really that I think when we're talking about dating and dating to marry and stuff, you said you need to compound experiences, and I think that this is one of those experiences in your roster. I fancied a guy. I had to initiate everything. I don't think I particularly like that. So next time, I'm not going to do that. Because you see, when a guy likes you, he can actively initiate things because he's doing that with the other girl. We did a video. Oh my gosh. TMS Plus came out this week.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you don't know already, if you haven't engaged, or maybe you listen to the podcast you actually listen on Apple or Spotify, we have a new segment here on the To My Sisters YouTube channel called TMS Plus, which are, little nugget size.
Bite size,
but still quality.
Quality.
Grow and glow tips. Yeah, literally quality, grow and glow. Grow and glow. Glow and grow.
It's glow and grow, sis. It's okay. We told you English is hard. Do you know what, though? As an aside, one thing that I've realized, I tried to say this to my friend when I had said something that was actually grammatically incorrect.
Yeah.
I said, we're trying to also decolonize language. And some of the mistakes that we make are not necessarily... It's all about reframing your thinking.
Yeah.
And understanding that it's not us grappling with English and making mistakes, but more so expressing ourselves and our identity through the different ways in which we leverage, the institutionalized...
What? We leverage the institutionalized.
We leverage the institute. We'll come back to this.
We will. It's a think piece, I think.
It's a think piece.
It's a think piece.
When someone's talking and you're just like, but what were you trying to say?
Where are you going here?
Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that language is not something that should be either correct or incorrect. It's something that ebbs and flows. And sometimes what ebbs and flows...
it's mad when someone brings in ebbs and flows. You're losing the point. Ebbs and flows.
Ebbs and flows. You use it for different things. Sometimes it comes out in a way that's a bit more artistic than...
Let's go back to this.
Yeah.
So, anyway, TMS Plus came out this week. Definitely go and check it out. 2 videos a week, giving you literally practical glow and grow tips. Straight up, no chaser.
Straight up, baby.
Literally straight sharp shooting content. But on TMS Plus this week, we did an episode talking about you have a bad attitude. If you go into church service looking at this guy you like and his new crush and thinking, this is difficult for me to see, please go and watch that video, because we were talking about how you need to start reframing the way that you think about the things that are presented to you and in front of you. This was an opportunity that you had and it did not work out. it's not like she's taken something from you that was even good for you because it didn't work for you. So you just need to move on. And that's it. And moving on looks very different. You may decide like, actually, okay, I'm going to just wait for the next person to come along. Or you may start actively approaching somebody else. Why not? Why not? Find another crush.
And there will be a TMS Plus on that.
Yeah. Subscribe.
Yeah, I think you should subscribe. I very much agree with everything that you had to say, Courtney. I think that one of the things that we were literally just saying this before we started the episode, one of the recurring things that many of us struggle with is dealing with the possibility and the actuality of rejection. Yeah. Especially as women, we're not trained in the same way as men or socialized in the same way as men to handle the possibility of rejection. And I think in this situation, it hurts sometimes to know that someone's not as into you, but in the long run, it's actually handy because do you really want to be with somebody that actually doesn't want you back? I think that's the pits. I think that's the
trashiest of them all. The bottom of the bin.
Absolutely. The bottom of the trash can. Yeah. And it's not a reflection on you and your like overall desirability. Yes. It's just that he doesn't like you or fancy you. Yeah. And the fact that you've actually seen him capable of doing these actions that you desire with somebody else means that there wasn't compatibility there. It. Now, I get that it's actually difficult seeing them in church every Sunday, doing up, lovebirds and all that jazz. And it will take some time to be positive because, especially if it's in the early days, you'll be looking at them like, oh, you're doing too much. I wish that was me. Or, must you have kissed her? Yeah. This is very true. I think it's also important to not see them doing that as having anything to do with you. Yeah. Like they're not doing it to be malicious. Because sometimes you can look, did you have to kiss her now? Yeah. I'm here. Mm-hmm. But they're just trying to live their life. And so, wow, this is going to sound harsh. This is very much so a you issue. Like we're here to help you work through it. But it's a you, like them kissing, them being in church with each other, they shouldn't not do that. You know, and that's not going to change. So it's for you to learn to have to get over it. Yeah. But that's okay, sis. No, honestly, we say this in the most loving way possible, sis, because we genuinely want you to be in a relationship where you're with somebody that deserves you, desires you, and loves you up. And don't let your energy towards this one guy. I know he's different, and it's not like the other church guy. Listen, it's always the church guys. It's always the ones, the drummers. Oh, I was literally talking about that with someone yesterday who was like, the drummers, yeah. The drummers. I know some of the church boy drummers are going to be listening to this like, y'all got something to say? We do. Yeah, you guys need to rebrand. Get it together. More power to you, sis. You've actually got this. It's hard, but you're going to get over it. And we genuinely wish, pray, and hope that you find somebody that goes above and beyond your expectations. Because some of the expectations you had were bare minimum, initiating stuff. But this is when someone actually doesn't like you, they're not going to do these things. Exactly. And I think sometimes as human beings, we can toy with each other because I was watching one of my old YouTube videos and I was talking about dating people just out of convenience. Yeah. Sometimes we don't actually like someone, they're just conveniently there. Yeah. And because they are making the effort, we just say, yes, sure, I'll show up. But we don't actually like them. And that's what this guy was kind of doing to you. And he may have been doing it to see if he could get to like you as well, giving him the benefit of the doubt. But I think with this situation, I think one key thing that you said is do not see this as a reflection of your self-worth, your value, how pretty you are, etc. Because it'll be easy to then start looking at this girl who you go to church with and are in close proximity with and say, is she prettier than me? Is she nicer than me? What does she have that convinced him to put more effort into her than he did into me? Yeah. Simply the fact that he likes her. It's nothing to do with ranking you. Yeah. And we've talked about this many times before, but sometimes women, well, not even sometimes, a lot of times women, we have to see ourselves in this kind of tiered system, this ranking system. And if this guy has chosen someone over me, it's because I am worth less than them. That's not the case. You're just not his type, or you're not, like you said, compatible. That is okay. And I think we really have to re-emphasize that in that same vein of being able to accept rejection. Yeah. Not every guy has to like you. Yeah. And as women, sometimes we can give it
like, I don't like him. He's this, he's that. He's not my type. It doesn't mean he's not going to be someone else's type.
Yep.
He's just not my type. Men have those same preferences, as we've emphasized across many episodes and many conversations. So you can't see it as like, oh my gosh, he didn't like me and now I've got to... No.
Nah, girl.
Not at all, sis. You are cute, beautiful, God-fearing. You got it all.
Got it all. Full package.
There you go.
Power to you, sis.
Confidence.
You got this. You got this.
You do indeed.
But moving on to the creme de la creme, the creme fraiche, the panna cotta.
Creme fraiche is a dairy that I'll never understand. But go on.
It's really quite disgusting. Creme de la creme, the creme fraiche, the whipped cream, the chocolate ganache, the I was running out.
It's all right.
I was running out.
It's all right.
I was running out.
It's all right. Let's go.
Daddy issues.
Ooh.
Talk to me, Courtney. What are daddy issues?
Oh,
what
okay. So daddy issues, when people are referring to it, I often think it's just a response to your behavioral responses to an absent father.
Yeah.
Or a father who may have been physically present, but was emotionally, mentally absent. So I think whether your father was absent, whether he was abusive, whether he was just that male dominant figure in your life through your childhood, how did his behavior towards you cause you to behave later on in life? So similar way that we talk about like the effects of your parents' attachment style to you later affecting the way you can bond and interact with people relationally as you get older. This is more of a niche down version of that in terms of, okay, specifically your relationship with your father. How did that functional dysfunctional relationship affect the way you relate to other people now? So I think that's what people are usually referring to when they talk about daddy issues. I think culturally, though, it has been used for other things, and we'll talk about that more. How about yourself, Miss Renee?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you, I definitely agree. I think, in short, daddy issues is the response to dysfunctional parenting and dysfunctional fathers or father figures, because there are some folks who have, like, it might not even be a father per se, but it might be an uncle, or it might be somebody who is in a fatherly figure in say like a community or something like that. Because I think sometimes we do hone in on like just the father, but there's also fathers. So it's quite possible that you also have fatherly related issues as a result of like poor community experiences or poor just general issues in your extended family. And I think the fact that it's even conceptualized as issue, it's a problem.
Yes. Do you think
it's
so?
A problem. It's a problem.
Okay.
But, daddy issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the sense that most people that have what we like deem as daddy issues need some kind of resolution. As in they need healing or they need some kind of assistance. Yeah, that's what I conceive of. When I think daddy issues. I think somebody dysfunctional. There's dysfunction somewhere because there's a problem. And I love what you were saying about the fact of like presence versus emotional, mental. Because oftentimes we think daddy issues, we often think her father wasn't there. Her father could have been there physically, but he wasn't there mentally. Wasn't there emotionally.
Financially, anything. It could
some
be anything.
people have present, alive father figures who have also caused very, very dysfunctional issues to arise in their kids. Or they may have been present, but they've been actively perpetuating dysfunction. So abusive fathers as well. So not even in the lack, but the actual like...
The presence was the problem.
Your presence was actually a problem.
Or how you were present was the problem.
Exactly. So that's what I think about daddy issues. But before we get into the thick of the problems, because at TMS we're all about balance and we're all about nuance. Did you see what I did there? I didn't even panic.
You're a poet and you don't even know it.
Wow.
That's not mine. That's unoriginal content.
But still, the fact that you thought of it is important. But yeah, at TMS, we like to give the benefit of the doubt. We like to add nuance to these conversations. And we just wanted to put this in there before anybody tries to come for us. Although if you do come for us, we will return. Are there any good fathers out there?
Of course. And this is actually a very good topic, because in response to our Average at Best video, if you haven't watched it, we talked a lot about single mothers, and I went personally on a very big rant about single parent households and single mothers in particular, and how a lot of men have neglected their responsibilities when it comes to fatherhood. And of course, in the passion of things and in that, I'm not going to apologize for any bit of that, because I believed in what I said, and what I said was true.
What you said. You said
However, one thing that was highlighted to me by someone who I really care about and is an amazing father was that, well, not all fathers are like this. And I think if you go and watch the episode and you get the context, everything I said was correct. Now, in terms of, are there good fathers out there? Of course. There are bad mothers, great fathers, bad fathers, good mothers, so many variations of parents, right? And we can't make an overgeneralization, because there really isn't statistical work on the quality of parents on a mass scale in whatever community you may be referring to. However, I think it's important to highlight that there are amazing fathers out there, and we appreciate the fathers who are fathering, and we appreciate the fathers that are present and good and great. And that there can, and he highlighted something to me, which is, well, a lot of people can't father or be actively present as fathers because the mothers have blocked their way. I think that that's a very, very real thing that I have seen. And I think it's something that also should be discussed. I don't know if we're going to get to that in this episode, because there definitely is that kind of, I personally think toxic femininity exists.
100%.
And so
toxic motherhood too.
Toxic motherhood exists. And we'll talk more about like mother issues and stuff maybe. But I think it's important to acknowledge that everyone has their shortfallings, and there is many examples of failing fathers, and unfortunately there's not enough representation, in my opinion, of successful fatherhood.
I agree.
And I think that that's one thing. I mean, you may have grown up watching particular shows where the father was a great example to you, but I think a lot of us can latch onto the prevailing examples and representation of negative fatherhood, whether it be, you know, the baby father image or the absent baby father or multiple baby father image, or the abusive father. I mean, the media content and the things that we have been exposed to, I don't think has done well in really presenting fatherhood in a positive light. And when it does, it's very much so exceptionalism, you know? And I think especially depending on what communities you come from, and I think that that's a very important part of this conversation when we have it now. We are two Black women sitting on this table. This sisterhood is full of a diverse amount of sisters as well. So you may not be able to relate to this when I say it, but I think culturally within certain communities, whether it be the Black community, and of course that's different between the UK, African-American community, Caribbean community, African community. Like there's so much nuance to it, so that we can't address absolutely everything. But are there good fathers? To answer that, 100%. And I think it's important also to give fathers grace. But it is one of the, in my opinion, when I look at the structure of the family and what it would take in my perspective and what I would want to have in a family unit, the father has a lot of responsibility. And it's one of those ones where if you want the honor and the esteem that comes with fatherhood, you have to show up to those responsibilities. And I think we are seeing, and this is what I was trying to emphasize in the video, as a generation, we are seeing the consequences of fathers not living up to their responsibility. And we are putting the brunt of it on, again, generalizations, but we're putting the brunt of it on women. You know, a lot of the comments under that video, women need to choose better, It's like, I get that. And we're not absolving women of their accountability. But what we are doing is calling out something that often goes neglected, which is the fact that if fathers want to lead this society, they really are the ones providing direction, identity, all these things. If they are not present, we see this. And you can't just blame one group. Like, I stand by what I said. If you want men to lead society and you call men leaders and all of that, they need to show up as such. And so that's what I wanted to kind of clarify about our last conversation on this topic. But good fathers, we champion you.
Honestly. And I definitely agree in terms of the representation of good fathers in the media versus representation of like quote unquote bad fathers. And and honestly, we don't have time to go into this, but even the way that the media or the government or, you know, all of these other external factors are all part and parcel of the construction of certain narratives towards certain communities. Like, for example, the Black community, because that's the community that we resonate with. Even the whole, listen, Sha, don't come for me. We know that the Black community, we use that tenuously because, you know, we can't overgeneralize, and even the whole idea of the identity of Black retete. But the Black community, right? This whole idea of like, you know, baby father culture, and baby mother culture, and single parenting and all of that jazz, is actually historically rooted in a lot of the colonial experiences of communities and families, where active desires to tear down the community was funneled through the tearing down of the father.
Because the family unit is vital to society's advancement.
It's not a, you know, coincidence that when they were trying to destabilize a lot of these communities across the colonial landscape, they went for the fathers. They were the ones that were the most valuable when it came to, you know, selling them off as slaves. They were the ones that were disproportionately beaten, or the ones that were disproportionately meted out discipline. They were the ones that were given the long hours so they wouldn't be able to go home at night to their, you know, wife and kids. They were the ones that were branded as lazy and stupid and dumb and all of that kind of stuff in the media. So we very, very much hear it insofar as we do need to give a lot of fathers grace. And like a lot of these narratives around like fatherhood as well are different in different communities, right? We do have a lot of communities where, you know, the father is present, but because he is constructed as the breadwinner, because he is constructed as the one that's not emotionally available, because he's the one that's riding at you to get your academics done, there's no emotional connection, right? So how does the socialization process in that you know, that particular community, precisely, and masculinity feed into that? But is there, you know, good fathers out there? Absolutely. And I've seen 100%. Them. And I've seen them personally and in real life. 100%. I have a lot of good friends that are fantastic fathers who really, really show up for their kids and show up for their responsibilities. I love the way that you conceptualize that, because it's not just about being there. It's about showing up for the responsibilities that you have. This is your kid. This is your child. And as much of you, like I said this distinction in one of our previous episodes, but it is different being a husband and partner and being a father. One, you may be able to fulfill one, but you need to work at fulfilling the other concurrently. Right? And I think that for men, this whole idea of like masculinity in general, right? This whole idea of like being a leader, they think that it encompasses being a father. Well, actually, no. Well, actually, no. In the same way that for women, there's the whole segment around like, you know, showing up as a wife versus showing up as a mother. They're two distinctive different needs, different roles, and they require different types of training. So in the same way that we often meter out to women, you need to, you know, really learn about coming into the fullness of being a wife and a mother. Well, how about we meter out the same kind of accountability to men and say, listen, you need to not only come into the fullness of being a man and a husband and a partner, you need to come into the fullness of being a father, and they're different. If you have kids, if you have kids, or even if you desire kids as well, because that's important. In preparation. That's important. Don't wait. If you're somebody that is looking to have kids, don't wait until you have kids to do your healing process. Don't wait until you have kids to start thinking about, okay, cool, what does it mean to be a father or a mother? But particularly, what does it mean to be a father? Because for women, so much content exists, so much stuff. What does it mean to be a father? What does it mean communities, communities, all of this kind of stuff. We need to see that for fathers. And to be honest, there's quite a lot. But get plugged in. And maybe we can, like, for the guys that we know that are secretly listening to this, we've seen you. Maybe we can drop a couple. But also it's good just for women to know that these communities exist, because they do. There's good fathers out there. I have definitely seen them. I love that. I think another thing that's super important as well is and we are talking about this from the perspective of people with parents, right? Because we are not parents yet. Because a lot of you were in the comments talking about, this is why you're single mothers. I don't know if you know something I don't know, but I ain't got no kids. I haven't got kids yet. So we're talking about this from the perspective of being
having parents. So in that, I wanted to say two things. I think also in preparation to become a parent, you must assess your relationship with your parents.
Yes.
Which is one of the biggest things you're going to project, or in fear of creating it, you're going to try and run away from it. And sometimes that leads you to trying to display something you've never seen before.
Absolutely.
And that's uncharted territory. Or you can just, the pain and the agony you feel, you pass it on to another generation. So really confronting your parents' issues, whether it be daddy or mummy issues, but also based on, I love what you said about the fact that the role of husband, boyfriend, whatever, provider is different to the role of father and your connection with your children. And I also think what I've seen, but in that same vein of like toxic femininity and actually allowing men to be fathers, is women also need to know that if you break up with your husband and your boyfriend, his role of father has not been abdicated. Do you get what I mean? And so a lot of us can see, and it comes down to that vein of who bears the responsibility of raising the family,
Absolutely.
right? And making sure the family unit is successful. Because if a woman sees herself as the gatekeeper, sometimes good and bad, but as the gatekeeper of whether a father can have access to his children, it becomes extremely problematic. Because just because he's not your husband anymore, just because he's not your boyfriend anymore, your partner anymore, doesn't mean he's not a father to those children.
Yep.
And unfortunately, a lot of children, I say a lot, because it's a word that just comes out of my mouth, but I don't know the stats.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there are children out there who do not have a father because their mother doesn't have a husband anymore. So the mother, in breaking up with their husband, has forced the child to break up with their father. And that can be a very damaging thing for people to have to experience.
Absolutely.
Because we're just going to say it and we're going to put it here right now. If you don't know like what we believe, both the role of mother and the role of father are extremely important in the life of a child. Yeah. Having both of your parents be functional, present, and love you is so important. It ricochets through the rest of your life. It sends waves and sets the tone for the rest of your life. Loads of us are having to engage in years of therapy and unlearning because our parents, not that they didn't love us, right? But there was just a whole bunch of dysfunction. They loved us the way they knew to love us. It's just unfortunately, it was tainted by a lot of toxicity, which they also did not heal from. And so I think it's important for us as a generation to kind of take the rungs and say, I'm going to heal from what happened to me, vertically, so that I don't I'm going to heal from what has been passed down to me so that I do not pass it down.
Absolutely.
And that's a really important thing to really hold on to when we are talking about the family unit and we are talking about daddy issues, because a lot of us do have daddy issues, men and women.
Oh, yes.
Women and men. The emphasis is on the men on this one. Men have daddy issues too.
100.
There needs to be a whole bunch of healing that needs to be done to restore us. And hopefully we can talk more onto that.
I love what you were saying about, making sure that we heal from the traumas that have been passed down to us so that we don't pass them on. Because I do think that, man, if we're doing up the whole, we want to be healthy people that are glowing and growing and all that stuff that we love to say here on TMS, we do need to address parental issues. Yeah. And I think what actually does make this space that we're curating different is we're really committed to doing the whole work. We're not just focusing on the romantic relationships. We're going back to your parents, your grandparents, and all the crazies that you've had. Because people are sweeping it under the rug and thinking that you can just like continue to build. And it's funny, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine earlier on, and I was talking about the fact that we often think of growth as overwriting, when really what we need to do is clean and then install a new software. When you overwrite, there's still some kind of existing code that's underlying there, and that could either cause a virus or something later on. Right. Whereas we actually need to wipe clean. We need to do up, I don't know what the actual like shortcut is to like shut down something completely, restore the factory settings, and then we start building again. Because we actually then have more space. Wow,
I love that. A very good analogy. We actually then have more space.
Exactly.
I like that.
But yeah, in terms of like what we need to heal from, one thing that I do find, and I think it depends on the kind of like relationship you've had with your father, right? One thing that I found, particularly with women who have had absent fathers in some way, shape or form, they normalize imbalance as interdependency. They normalize imbalance. And this was something that I actually had to come to terms with, because I thought that, you know, whenever I had a relationship with somebody, or like whenever I got into a friendship with somebody, I would understand what interdependency looks like.
Yeah.
But I realized I hadn't actually seen it.
Yeah.
And what I had thought was interdependency was actually the same thing, the same pattern of self-sufficiency, of imbalance, because I hadn't seen it. I had no model. I had no framework of reference or anything like that. So I think one of the interesting ways that daddy issues shows up for women is this normalization of imbalance in other areas of our lives.
Could you give like an example?
If you're the kind of person that likes to do above and beyond for your partner,
right,
you might have daddy issues.
Right.
Or if you're the kind of person who is finding it really difficult to let men do something for you,
right,
or let your friends do something for you,
right,
you might have daddy issues.
Yeah, and I think it's because the root of it is more so fear. Yeah. And I think a lot of us...
Abandonment issues.
Like, when it comes to absent parents, it's abandonment issues. I am scared you're going to leave me.
Yeah.
So I now need to prove my worth. Because a lot of us, if one of your parents left, it's that feeling when you're a child especially. Survivor's guilt. And it's very much so like, or was I not good enough? Was I not a good enough reason for you to stay? And I mean, when I first started therapy, one of the, not unrelated to this, but one of the main things that my therapist highlighted was, when you're a child, you just have all the audacity in the world.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You have all the entitlement in the world. Why? Because I don't need to prove my worth to you. I exist. Cater to me.
Yeah.
I've, weed on myself, clean me. I'm hungry. Bring me food. We have all the audacity and the entitlement, based not on a feeling of value, but simply being. Yeah. And I think as we get older and we see people treat us certain ways and walk out, if your parents' response to you makes it seem like you just being is not enough for me to stay and put in effort, whether that is the reason they're leaving, that's obviously not the reason they're leaving most times. Somebody doesn't look at their child and say, this child is worthless.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's rather other factors. But as children, because those factors are not explained to you, not that we'd even be able to understand in the first place, we grow up thinking, or with an internalized thinking of, was I not a good enough motive? So now I actually need to prove to people that I'm worth you trying. I'm worth you staying. I'm worth you sticking around. And then, like you said, you try and go above and beyond, but really you're proving yourself. Yeah. You're constantly proving yourself. And not that because that person has asked you to, but because you feel an intrinsic need to continue to remind them, I am worth you sticking around. I am worth you sticking around. And it's scary because you don't have to do it. And it's that fear of actually, but if I stop doing it, what's going to make them stay? Because my just being is not enough. Somebody who gave birth to me into this world didn't even see that as enough to stay. Yeah. So what about somebody else who has many other options? What's going to let them stay? So a lot of us are insecure because of that abandonment. Yeah. It's an insecure attachment. Yeah. And that's another thing about it. Obviously, we've mentioned briefly attachment theory and attachment styles across previous conversations. And if you haven't looked into Bowlby's attachment theory, definitely go and do it. But there are secure and insecure attachment styles. And your attachment style and how it manifests in relationships is hugely down to caregiving. And it's caregiving, parents. That's literally it. Parents and guardians. The way your parents dealt with you, whether they were present in your life, whether you were given up for adoption or put in foster care, whether you were abused as a child, whether your needs were actually met, whether you were constantly made to basically survival of the fittest in your household, all these things, your childhood impact the way you relate to other people. And that's why unlearning your parent issues is one of the first things you should do if you're ever considering being with somebody else, because it's easy to become a destructive person and not even know it, because that's just how you've always been. And when you're young, your household is what you see as normal.
Yeah.
Your household is what you think everyone else is doing. You know, even to this, you know, the smallest example, in my house, we don't give things with our left hand.
Yeah.
So then when you see somebody else giving something with their left hand, you're thinking, where'd they do that at?
How were you raised?
What the heck? But that's because for children, your household, that's your blueprint. What you're told, what you're socialized into, that's your blueprint. Everything else from that is different. It's weird. And it's something you have to learn. Your socialization is something you have to learn or unlearn. And I think that that's one of the biggest things a lot of us need to really internalize. You are a product of your socialization, and therefore you are a product of your relationship with your primary caregivers. And if they instilled something in you which you haven't taken awareness of, you're going to go about your life interacting with people with that underlying behavioral pattern and not know why nothing ever works out. You know, in the guise of that's how I am, that's how I was raised, it's my nature. And so we really have to not nitpick at these things in a way of being hypercritical of ourselves, but rather assess yourself. Really walk through your childhood and find out, is there some things I actually need to heal from?
And where did it come from? Because I think the key in kind of like figuring out what you need to heal from is trying to figure out where do certain traits or certain behavioral responses actually come from. And why you feel the way that you do. Not that you need to become super, super meta, but taking that time to pause and really understand, okay, cool. Why was my response to that this? Why? Like actually why? Because I think even in the whole going above and beyond for people, we can sometimes frame it as well, I'm just an overachiever. Or like, I'm somebody that just likes to do the most. I'm just excellent. But if you were in the back of your mind, if you were that excellent, your dad would have stayed. So those are the kind of like thoughts that you actually need to confront and understand that even some of the positive traits or things that you think are positive characteristics can have very, very negative roots.
100%. Or if you had a father who, say if you're a young man and you had a father who told you, you're a man, you're going to have to figure this out for yourself because this is what men do. If you then delve into this, you know, really toxic hypermasculinity where you think being a provider is the be all and end all of manhood, that's all that you will give people.
This is it.
I will give you money, I'll give you resources, but do not you dare ask me to be emotionally available, because that's not what was demonstrated for you. And we can only really replicate that which we see. And so I'm trying to think of more examples of men who have daddy issues, because I think daddy issues is so heavily used against women. And it's this kind of Freudian theory that, you know, girls are in love with their daddies and boys are in love with their mummies. And it's like, but your first example of masculinity will most likely come from your father. Your first example of femininity will most likely come from your mother. Precisely. And this is why I kind of get the root of this feminine energy content. Absolutely. Because like you said about imbalances, a lot of us grow up depending on the structure of your household, learning what the roles and responsibilities of women and men are through that model of whatever our families, whatever our parents' dynamic was. So if your mother was the main breadwinner in your household, that's what you'll most likely grow up to replicate. If you then end up with somebody whose father was the main breadwinner in their household, there's going to be a conflict of roles, because who's going to take the leadership position here? And I think that that's where a lot of, you know, people, especially in this red pill stuff, a lot of women do need to not necessarily unlearn, but really figure out, okay, am I holding on to something that was born out of dysfunction, or actually do I believe that this is what will work? Do I believe I constantly have to be strong and cannot show my emotions? Because the dynamic I grew up seeing in my household was that one parent was one parent, because of their absence, made the other parent that remained the rock of the family. And because they were trying to hold the brunt of both responsibilities, like, let me just put names to it to make it more simple. If your father left and he left your mother, and now your mother is having to be literally your mum and your dad, the emotional availability is not going to be there, because I've currently got to make sure the lights stay on. I've got to provide an income that two people used to provide now with just one. Got to make sure childcare is sorted, XYZ, the various responsibilities of a single parent. How do I then be able to sit down with you and have you crying to me about depression? I don't have the time for this. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And so then you think, and also, how do I then say I feel depressed? Or how do I then say I feel overwhelmed? Because who else is going to be here to pick up the pieces if I decide to take a day off? Right? So now you're growing up thinking, as a woman or as a strong person, you cannot say I feel weak. Yeah. You cannot say I need help, because you didn't see anyone help your mum. And now your idea about gender roles has been warped. Your idea about gender roles has been shaped by that dynamic of whether it was functional or dysfunctional. And now you're going to take that into your next relationship, assuming that's the way things just go, and not knowing that that has become a part of the way you've been programmed. And not to say it's bad or it's good, but you need to be with somebody who can understand that and who is also compatible with that.
Yeah, and I think I was just reflecting on the part of like, how does daddy issues affect men? I've got a couple of theses that have been running in my mind.
Pop off.
The first is, when we're dealing with an absent father, women can only do so much. That's my thought. I think, as you were saying, we definitely believe that you do need two parents. If two people brought you into this world, god damn it, you need two people to survive.
Both of them. Facts.
And I think for men, there's a couple of ways that can affect them / really impact them later on in life. The first is the normalization of defection, right? You defect your line of duty or responsibilities when, excuse my French, shit hits the fan. Because all you can grapple with and see is your father stepped out when things got hard.
And your mum survived.
So there's definitely that element of, well, things are hard, I'm out.
Yeah,
my
and
father
you'll figure it out.
And you'll figure it out, right? And I've seen my father leave when things get hard. So that means that as a man, when things get hard, I'm going to start to internalize that I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Another more toxic manifestation of this, and I think we actually see this in the red pill community, is a lot of misogyny directed towards women as a result of the resentment that you have towards your mother. A lot of folks are dealing with unresolved resentment towards their mothers as well as their fathers, because there's this whole, why couldn't you keep my father?
Why didn't you do enough?
Why didn't you do enough? Yeah. Why couldn't you hold the family down?
Or why did you send him away?
Precisely this. And like you said, we're not trying to absolve anybody of accountability, because we know there are mothers out here that will be bad-mouthing, the fathers.
Big facts.
Having said that, sometimes it's actually true, because some of these fathers be out here trifling.
100%. But I also think, I'm not a parent yet, so I can't tell anyone to parent.
Yeah.
But to distort your child's view of their father.
Absolutely what I was going to say. Personally, you need to be very, very careful about, as a mother, not allowing your relationship, or rather some of the negative elements of the relationship that you've experienced, to distort how they are as a father.
Because he could be a bad husband, but he might be a good dad.
This is it.
And it hurts.
It hurts
to have to accept that. But he loves his kid more than he loves you right now. But that's okay. Do not become jealous of your children.
That's another thing. That is definitely another thing. So there's definitely a lot of men who carry a lot of anger towards women.
Yeah.
As a result of
and I've seen it.
I've seen it. Damn, some of them was in our comments. Yeah, just the other day, some of y'all was in our comments.
Yeah, but I've also seen the whole mothers being jealous of their children.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And y'all need to heal, first of all. Y'all need to heal. So that's how I think of daddy issues, but also for the fathers that are actually there.
Yeah.
Right? For men, what I'm more concerned about is the normalization of abuse. So those who grow up seeing abusive fathers, and it doesn't have to be physically abusive, although that's definitely one. Emotionally abusive, manipulative.
Yes.
When they see that kind of manipulative behavior. And this is not to say that you can entirely keep your relationship with your partner separate from your family unit, right? Because as kids, we pick up stuff, right? We pick up when mum or dad has been beaten.
Yeah.
We pick up when you're feeling sad.
Yeah.
We pick up when, somebody is perhaps being a little, fornicator. We pick up these things. And I think
Papa was
no.
Rolling Stone.
We pick up these things. And obviously we're not parents, but in terms of like personal experience as well as like community experience, we need to be more careful and understand that these things will impact our kids.
Yeah.
So if you are a fornicator or someone that has propensity towards not actually being faithful, you need to nip that in the bud now, because your kid is going to become exactly like you in about 10 years' time if you don't sort it out.
This is it. And it's no one else's job to fix you. It's down to you. And this is literally that accountability vein for men and women. There's a lot of work you need to do to try and fix you.
Absolutely.
That is not anybody else's responsibility.
Absolutely.
No one... Okay, hear me on this. Love is not the medicine you need, right? Romantic love, being in a relationship won't fix you.
Absolutely.
Having a child won't fix you.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of us make this happen because it's like, if I force myself into the situation, I can shock myself into showing up. And that's when mistakes are made.
Grievous mistakes.
Grievous mistakes are made. And what's worse is you're toying with life. You're toying with someone's actual heart, their soul. You are going to use somebody to experiment. And unfortunately, this isn't some dolly you can just throw away and buy a new one of. This is a human life, whether it be your child or your partner. So it's actually your job to fix you so you don't start damaging other people. Someone can come and help you along the way, but to make that their responsibility...
It's unfair. They don't have time because they're also dealing with their own stuff. They don't have time. Do we look like Bob the Builder?
I haven't got time.
I don't have time.
I can't raise you and raise our kids at the same time.
And that, let's even park that one there, because I think that is such a significant point as to how a lot of modern day relationships are playing out. Okay? Because, hear me out, y'all. Don't come for me.
There's a lot of hear us out of this one.
There's a lot of hear us
patient.
out. Hear me out. But sometimes the way that we parent our kids, right, especially if you are born of a family where you have an absent father or your father's defective in some area.
Not defective. Send him back to the manufacturer.
Send him back.
Warranty.
For women, not just through our mothers and defective fathers, but also as a result of the way we've been socialized, because we have normalized imbalance, part of our daddy issues comes in the fact that we feel like we need to raise our partners. Some of us are behaving like the single mothers that our mothers were towards our partners, because that's all we've seen. We haven't seen functional relationships. We haven't seen the dynamic of interdependency between our parents.
You haven't even seen romance. You've literally just seen parenting.
And this is also why we are accepting the bare minimum when it comes to our partners as well. We're accepting the bare minimum because our mothers didn't even get the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Our mothers didn't get to go out on the fancy dates.
Yes.
Our mothers didn't get to, wear the nice dresses. Our mothers weren't the ones that were, actively treated with respect.
Yeah.
And that's also a reflection on the men as well, because they think that they can come with the bare minimum now. They can come with the bare minimum and expect the maximum. Yeah. Expect to be raised, because that's the model they've been dealt out as kids.
Yeah.
Crazy. Crazy. Is that not crazy?
100%.
Bare minimum.
100% when you've got daddy issues. 100. And I think it's also that aspect of when you said that, you haven't seen romance, and all you've really seen is my mum is there, she's present, and she's got all these issues with her, and she's got all these successes or whatever role she's fulfilling. But the role of father is absent. Yeah. It's a blank space. Like, it's currently a shadow figure. Yeah. Literally, when you're looking at like, on those, but on them game shows
that you before have to unlock. Reveal,
literally on a game, like, unlock, you haven't seen it yet, it's unlocking. Because we see that, we see the role of the men in our lives as just a position any man can come and
Yes.
fill. Rather than seeing a specific human being, we see empty space.
Yeah.
So a lot of us treat our relationship as, I'm just trying to fill that empty space. I just need a man next to me. I need a man in my household. I need someone to crack these eggs. I don't actually care about you and your person and your development.
Yeah.
I just need you to fulfill this role because it's currently empty. I don't like the emptiness because my mum seemed lonely. But to care for you as a person because you didn't have a humanized father. Your father was absent. You just relied on memories of him or whatever it may be. That is dangerous. That is very, and a lot of us get with men and women because I just need you to fulfill that role. It's that whole like, I've had dreams of my wedding day. I just need a husband to fill that space.
To fill the space.
But act the way I want you to act. Because in our dynamics of what we've seen with households, especially if you've just got a mother, my mum directs everything. I just need you to come and play your role. I'm the director. I'm the producer. I'm the provider. I'm the lead role. You just need to come fulfill your role.
And you know what's funny about that dynamic is having that kind of attitude is more likely to replay everything that's occurred in your generation.
Facts.
Because men will come, but they will run.
Oh, fast. And we're just giving you the truth of the truth.
They will run. Because what man will stay around with somebody who thinks they can run the show and have them as the portrait on the wall? Who is going to stay? Would you stay in a relationship with someone who thinks that you're an extra?
You're an accessory.
At best. At best. And I think we actually do need to give men more credit insofar as they too want to be active in this relationship.
They want to be loved. Like legit. They want to be loved.
They will listen, some of them are emotionally available, some of them are problematic, but there's good men out there.
Legit. And please believe it. Internalize it.
There's good men out there. And also in terms of just like, I know our conceptualization of daddy issues is very difficult to do up all encompassing, right? We know that there are some experiences that are not talked about in depth here.
Yes,
so I'm thinking even of like people whose fathers may have passed away, for example.
Literally.
I was literally thinking that in my head as well. It's perfectly possible that you also have daddy issues caused by that absence, but not necessarily negative. Although it's actually
abandonment.
Exactly.
But you could.
You could. And it's actually very, very normal to have those kind of reactions too. But understanding that also requires healing is important. Because I know that for mothers that are now in that situation where they've had to become breadwinner by force, not necessarily because they've been abandoned, but because, life happens, it can be really difficult. And that can manifest in different ways as well, where you're actually actively upset at like things like faith, where you're actively upset at the universe, where you're actively angry and continually just, there's scorned. Precisely, why did this have to happen to me and my family? So, and that can make you very, very fearfully avoidant. Yes, you don't want to get into any kind of attachment because you feel like this person will be taken from you. Not even that they're going to leave, but they'll be taken.
I love that. I love that.
So understanding that daddy issues is, as much as we have a typecast understanding of what daddy issues are, it's very much I would say, unnuanced way to speak to the ways in which defective, dysfunctional, or in some ways subpar parenting has affected our lives. Affected our relationships, affected our identity and who we are, affected the way that we even speak to people.
Even if you had parents that were present, but were simply disciplinarians. That will affect the way you see not only how to parent, but also the way you see yourself and the way you see relationships.
Absolutely.
A lot of us are hypercritical because we were criticized all the time.
Absolutely.
A lot of us, like you said, overachievers because we were constantly under a microscope of you better prove your worth in this house. Okay? How about that?
You have to.
You have to.
Or we've had extremely narcissistic parents that project their ideals, their desires, who are living vicariously through us. And when we don't live up to those expectations, They get angry, they get mad. There may be some very serious ramifications
Yeah.
for those who don't live up to the projections of narcissistic parents. And sometimes it can be extremely damaging, not just in the sense of like our self-image and self-worth, but also if we do have actively abusive parents that are like, if you don't get that A on that test, what does this say about me in the community?
Yes.
And all of a sudden you get a smack,
or
you're beaten or something like that. So understanding that even that is a form of, you know, parental issues, daddy issues.
Big issues, mummy issues. Because oftentimes our response to this is either you constantly stay in the position of the victim or you constantly stay in the position of the child, trying to prove why you should be loved, trying to live up to these expectations, trying to make your parents proud and not feel like a disappointment. Or you decide to completely rebel and adopt the position of power, which has been demonstrated to you, which is to now become the one with the unmeetable expectation.
Absolutely.
To now become the one who makes people feel scared when they are around you, because that is the way you perceive power.
Yeah.
That is the way you feel as though you are no longer going to be victimized if you now adopt this position of making everyone else feel like they should tiptoe around you. And so many of us grew up in households where we felt like we had to tiptoe around our parents. You feel like an inconvenience to the people that brought you into this world. And we're here to affirm you that you are not an inconvenience.
Absolutely.
Just because somebody may not have been able to, I don't know what your parents were going through, but let me tell you, you're here on this earth for a purpose, for a reason, and with intrinsic value. So just because somebody else couldn't treat you as such, whether it was your parent or not, we understand, and we've just spent the whole hour explaining. We understand why that would happen. But choose to really do the work to believe that, independent of your parents, that you are a person who deserves not just love, but to be whole and to be healed. And you are not an inconvenience. You are not an inconvenience to your friends. You are not a burden. You are not somebody who is invaluable towards communities. And you are also not somebody who has to do this hyper amount of work. You are just you. And that's enough.
100%.
That's enough.
100. And I think very, very lastly, another type of daddy issue, because I know there's a couple sisters that think, oh, my dad was great. He gave me everything I wanted. He was also a problem. In that...
When can they get it right?
When can they get it right? But I'm trying to deal with every single type.
Go on.
We've already given our kudos to the good fathers. So
Yes.
let's tear into them. So the folks where it has become normalized that your father is your world. Your father gives you everything you could ever possibly want or desire, such that you get into a relationship and expect your partner to be able to do the same.
Is this like physical things or just
physical things?
Idolizing
mostly,
your parents?
Precisely. That too is a form of a daddy issue, because if your daddy has been your main provider,
it's dysfunction.
Main provider, everything you've asked for, a pony, a bag,
Daddy,
money,
daddy,
you will carry that into your relationship thinking,
you get to be a
also
child.
going to be doing that.
You get if that, and this is the thing, if that is the dynamic that he can agree to and you are compatible with, calm. But what's important to emphasize in this is it then begins to shape the way you view men and how men are meant to act. And then you continue to kind of slew men who do not do that. And you think, wow, men of today's generation are not X, Y, Z. It's like, no one wants to pay your bills, man. No one wants to father you. You have a dad.
You have a father.
I'm trying to be your man.
Yep. They're distinctive roles. Distinctive roles. But
oh god, that's actually so funny.
Man, listen, because you'll be thinking, oh, my dad was great. Your father was an ATM.
And that was the way you loved. And it's fine if your love language is gift giving, but let it be because of love, not because of these entitlements.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
Some of the ways in which daddy issues, or the idea of daddy issues, has been weaponized towards women. Yeah. Because there's a lot of communities or a lot of like narratives or just even individuals that will come along and say, oh, you're behaving this way because you have daddy issues. You have
daddy issues.
Talk to me about that, Miss Courtney.
She's a hoe because she got daddy issues.
Like, you're promiscuous because your father was not present.
Yeah. You just have that. It's like, Iyanla done a trip on you with that daddyless daughter stuff. And I get it. I completely get it. But listen, I'm going to just call a spade a spade. It's a way of calling a woman damaged.
That's good. That's true.
It's just saying you're damaged.
Yeah, damaged
and
goods.
I don't want damaged goods. Right?
Peace.
I think another issue is, yes, while she may have issues that she hasn't dealt with, I think people associate healing and going on a process of personal development as a feminine thing. And so to tell somebody they have mummy issues or daddy issues, it's easier to tell a woman that, because it's, oh, now I need to go and back away so that I can become, I need to go and work on myself. I need to go on this journey of rediscovery. I need to go to therapy. All these things are often feminized.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you told a guy he has daddy issues, it's like, I ain't got no daddy issues. Like, I'm a man. Like, what do you, and it's like, yeah, but you have issues.
Like your masculinity overrides.
Your masculinity overrides your need for personal growth. And it's that's not the case. And even the idea of childhood, right? It's often feminized because it is a position of weakness or vulnerability. Not weakness, but vulnerability. Children are the most vulnerable in our society. Yeah. They have to be protected. But if you're a grown man being told, especially with, the main trait of masculinity being not to be weak, not to be vulnerable, to go back to your childhood is to an extent to have to experience a new state of vulnerability and a new state of weakness. And so if somebody's saying you have daddy issues, it's like saying you're a child. You're acting like you have arrested development, right?
Not arrested.
No, but that's not, but that weakness of being told you're childish being told, you're back to that position of literally that child standing at the front door waiting for their dad to come home. If that's how you haven't been allowing yourself to conceptualize yourself in your mind, why would you want to go back to that feeling of disappointment and weakness when actually you can just be all macho and ignore it? That's where I would kind of say, that's why I would say daddy issues has been used against women. Yeah. Because women, in society, it's more acceptable, though, and I think more so now, it's more acceptable for us to say, I'm just getting over, I'm healing. But even when you go to your guy friends, are you okay, bro? Like, what's going on? How many of them are going to come out and be like, I'm just in a process of healing? Because to heal, you've got to admit you're wounded.
The good ones
That's vulnerable. The good ones do, 100%. But how many of people, even in the mainstream, I think now, as more people are talking about masculinity and overcoming that mental health and all of that, it's getting better. Yeah. But to admit that you are healing is to also admit that you were broken. Yeah. To admit that you were broken is to be vulnerable and to admit that there was a point of weakness.
Yeah.
That's not something that has, as society has gone on, been allowed to be synonymous with masculinity. And that's what needs to change. Men should be able to say, I'm broken, and it not be, so you're not really a man.
Not a man.
But what do you think, basically?
In terms of like weaponization against women, I think that daddy issues is really like damning, because to me it says if you perceive a woman's behavior as problematic, or, you're acting in this way because you didn't have a father, it's assuming that her value, like she lacks value and she lacks respect because she didn't have a man present in the formative times of her development. And it's usually not said in a place of love or familiarity, especially the dynamic between like a man and a woman. It's often like, whenever I hear, she's got daddy issues, I often see it on like social media where we've got these people with like egg profiles and no faces, or when they do have faces, they're old enough to be somebody's uncle or father, or they're just, very unappealing. Sorry, I'm calling a spade because some of them have mad energy and it's like, you would never say this in real life. So
Fairs.
I don't understand why you've come on somebody's page. And yes, you say, it's public and they've opened them. You've come on Beyonce's internet to come and tell this woman who doesn't know anything about you, don't know anything about her, to say that she's got daddy issues. Yeah. And also to attribute her problematic behavior to her not having a man present is even problematic in of itself, because it's the assumption that if a woman is not respectable, it's because a man wasn't present. Yeah. How do you know that her father wasn't loving and caring?
100%. And she just has an opinion you don't agree with. And also
especially when it comes to like sexualized content. And it's funny because you are the primary consumer of this content, yet you're here talking about
propagator of the content.
You're here to talk about respectability, politics, and all of that kind of stuff. But at 2 a.m. in the morning, you're on Pornhub. So what now?
Oh my God.
In fact, some of the porn that you're watching is very, very problematic content, insofar incestuous content. Okay.
Oh my God.
No, let's actually deal with this.
Oh my goodness.
Because you're watching pornography that is involving stepfathers and daughters and all of that jazz.
That's so funny.
You're watching that. Courtney, biggest man thing. Am I lying?
Go. No, you're not.
You're watching pornography that's around incestuous and dysfunctional family relationships. But you've come on Beyonce's internet to tell my good sis, who doesn't know you from Adam, that she has daddy issues. You certainly have daddy issues if you're watching somebody's proposed stepfather have sex with their daughter.
What a take.
What a take. No, the hypocrisy is so real. And the assumptions, and I mean, obviously, social media is one of those things where it's like, it creates a sense of familiarity.
Yeah, of course.
Like, it's the audacity for me.
It's the audacity.
It's the audacity for me because it's not from a place of care. And the fact that you've left a public comment as well.
Yes.
To say sis has a, daddy issues.
In an attempt to shame
Did
as
you
well.
in an attempt to shame.
The daddy issues thing is often seen as, people like pull it out to end an argument. You're talking with someone, it's like, okay, these are my views. You don't agree with my views. Let's debate. And then they pull out you just have daddy issues.
Your father didn't teach you how to...
And it's definitely that thing of, let's shut down this conversation.
Your father didn't teach you how to be a wife. Did your mother teach you how to be a husband?
And did your father teach you how to be a man?
But your father was also absent, but here you are.
And yet I can't pull out that card on you.
And it's the assumption, a lot of these men, the assumption that they too have somehow transcended or actively come from a functional family, or they've transcended a dysfunctional one.
Yes.
It's the assumption.
Yeah.
Because more times it's likely that you two have come from a dysfunctional family. But you're
these girls have brothers, no?
You're here projecting. You're here projecting. And one thing that I despise about that, even, the fact, I'm so happy that you said that these people have brothers. It's the fact that a lot of people don't understand the power of their words or how destructive they can be unless it's in close proximity to them. You wouldn't want your sister talk to you like that. You wouldn't want your mother addressed like that. And yet you're here talking smack about single mothers. You're here talking smack about sex workers. You're here talking smack about women, period. And you have sisters. You have mothers. You have cousins and friends. And the fact that it's only proximity that will allow you to respect women is a problem.
And the fact that you also have to disassociate your women. You have to disassociate the women in your life from women before you make your commentary. My sisters, my mum would never do this. The women in my family would never do that. So I'm going to talk about because of the exceptionalism or...
They don't like you. Actually sick of it.
Spot on.
Done with it. How many times people will say, do you know what? I'm whole because that person is doing worse than me.
Yeah.
Or I'm perceiving this person to be going through it. Yeah. Therefore, I'm the healthy one. It feels like we've touched on a lot, but also not touched on enough. There's just so much that we could, do you know what I mean? We could really go into this. Yeah. We could really do a deconstruction, analyze, all that jazz.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, as long as this episode is, we got to close out here.
We got to go. See you next week.
We got to go. Goodbye, goodbye, my friends. Goodbye, goodbye. Do you know that song?
No. That's why I'm looking at you like this.
We live in joyful hope that Miss Courtney will improve on her musical references.
Okay, whatevs.
Big Bear and the Little Blue House.
We will see you this week during TMS class. I know.
Oh gosh, I'm telling you guys, Courtney is sick of me with the musical interludes. But if you're enjoying it, please let us know in the YouTube comments below.
I love the musical interludes. I love it. But we need to create like a playlist or something so that I can know the song you sing.
For sure. But it's because I consume, like when I was a kid, I consumed so much content. I loved cartoons.
I didn't really watch cartoons or like listen to music that much when I was younger.
Really?
Yeah, I was a film person though.
Oh, fine. I hear it.
Film and TV. But anyways.
Yeah, no, we gotta close. So let us know what you have to say on daddy issues, mummy issues, parental issues, everything in between by atting us on Instagram @ToMySisterhood. Our community is actually growing quite a lot on Instagram.
Really is.
If you are missing out, I suggest you go over there and follow us.
Daily content,
and there's some good stuff. Like if there's something that you've wanted to be, you've been meaning to share with somebody that you don't want to do it directly, do it through us.
Legit.
So make sure you follow us on Instagram @ToMySisterhood. And of course, you can always say hi to us personally at CDB Boateng and at Renee Kapiku.
Woo woo. Or you can tweet us using the hashtag #ToMySisters and the same handle @ToMySisterhood. Listen, ladies, we tell you every week.
Namaste.
Listen, ladies, we tell you every week to join us for exclusive glow and grow tips over on our email mailing list. So definitely sign up to that at www.tomysisters.com so we can glow and grow together. We are going to, of course, be coming to you with extra content this week through TMS Plus. So definitely subscribe so that you never miss a beat. Turn on your notifications, okay? And as always, today's topic was heavy. It was, and there will be a link in the description if you want to get therapy, affordable and accessible therapy. But go into this week and prosper.
Yes.
Okay. So we bid you farewell, and as always, we say, keep glowing and growing.